So pleased to be joined once again by a true original in pro wrestling. The man will be facing Zack Sabre Jr. at AEW New Japan Forbidden Door on Sunday, June 30th at UBS Arena on Long Island. It's Orange Cassidy. Orange, welcome back to Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, but everything you just said maybe made me feel a little stressed out because I do have to wrestle Zack Saber again.
Yeah. So like I said, you're facing Zack Sabre on this show, Master of Technical Wrestling. You faced him at last year's Forbidden Door in a four-way with Katsuyori Shibata and Daniel Garcia. How do you go about facing a guy like Sabre one-on-one?
You just kind of hope for the best, and I think I have a little bit of an advantage this time because I was able to wrestle him last year, and I found out that he has a counter to everything I do. So it gave me a little bit of a year to kind of plan for his counter and try to his counter that counter. Um, it is he is the best technical wrestler in the world. So this is a little daunting.
People might not readily recognize it, but I think you're a heck of a technical wrestler too. Like before this, what do you think the best like technical match you had, or who was maybe the best technical wrestler you've been in the ring with, other than Saber?
Well, sure, and I've been very fortunate enough to be with some of the best in the world. Brian Danielson, I was able to just briefly mix it up with him in a tag match where I actually teamed with Okada at that time. And to see that his level of talent, uh, he might be he's probably one of the best. Well, he is. I should say he is one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta. These are guys that are very, very technical, and also Lee Moriarty. These are some of the guys that I always. When I find out that I have to wrestle them, I always have to really brush up on my technical side.
Sabre's match with Brian Danielson was one of my favorite matches that AEW has done, and I thought just a really unique, great match. Is it a fun challenge for you to get kind of a different but still great match out of this guy?
I think it's very important that you know I won't try to emulate that match because you've already seen it, right? I definitely think it's unique where I am a far different wrestler than Brian Danielson, so it'll be a far different match I'll have with Zack Saber, and it's to make to have a match that is our own and not try to emulate something that will probably go down as one of the greatest technical wrestling matches ever. So yeah, it's best not to try to emulate, but try to just be our own thing.
With a guy like Sabre, do you anticipate ahead if you do the pockets? Does he have some sort of submission you're not, that you're not thinking of if you give him your torso, and what kind of counter he does if you do the multiple kicks? Do you think ahead of those kind of things when you're sort of thinking about what you're going to do in a match, like what the reaction is going to be?
Yeah, so I feel kind of dumb now because this past Saturday on Collision, I wrestled another phenomenal technical wrestler that I've never wrestled before, which is Kyle O'Reilly. And he did something that I don't think anybody's ever done before, and that was use me against my own self. And I sometimes can trick people and use my pockets as like a thing that gives me the upper hand, but he used it against me. I actually am kind of grateful for that match with Kyle because he kind of showed me a lot of weaknesses that I have, especially going with the Zack Saber with a and I have to start planning ahead for those things because I've been doing this for 5 years at AEW, and people are starting to get familiar with what I'm doing, so I have to try to find ways to reinvent it.
Change the questions when they start coming up with the answers. Did you have a favorite reaction from an opponent to you putting your hands in your pockets in the time you've been doing it?
Probably the first time I did it in front of Billy Gunn. I think it was like in 2019. It was some type of battle royal or something, and I did it with Billy Gunn, and the look on his face was like, "What is happening? Why is this? Why is this happening?" And right when I was about to strike, MJF came and threw me over the top rope. So that is probably one of my most favorite reactions.
That's tremendous. When were you first aware of Zack Sabre Jr. As a fan, and what do you like best about his game?
I've actually known Zach for quite a long time. We used to wrestle in the same promotion called Beyond Wrestling,
Right.
based out of New England area, more Massachusetts, Connecticut, and I got familiar with him around there, where we kind of got to know each other. Obviously, our paths went in different directions, but I've known about Zach for quite some time. I've been following him for quite some time, and I it's one of those matches that I really wanted to have in a singles, and we got a four-way last year, so I'm glad I can get this one to kind of show where I'm at.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you had no singles matches with him. And I remembered back that you had the four way last year, and I was thinking like, oh, he must have wrestled some other times, but no, not until
Yeah,
now.
no, this
First
is
time
it.
ever. Yeah.
Yep.
I have to think with AEW, New Japan, some talents from Stardom, some talents from CMLL, there will be some level of new eyeballs on AEW on a show like Forbidden Door. How would you sell this show to people, and how would you, maybe pitch the AEW product to fans of some of those other promotions, a little bit of a different style?
I think it's for sure a different style, and it's clearly an alternative. We've been saying the slogan now where it's AEW, we're the best wrestle, and it is a more wrestling based show. When you say more wrestling, the matches are the highlights. And for an event like this is our, I believe, third year doing Forbidden Door, and we're adding more promotions to it. It is something that any other wrestling promotion would never do, not wasn't allowed to do. And the idea that we're crossing over with other major wrestling promotions from around the world to bring a product to the United States of America is um, it's something that was never thought possible um, until the existence of AEW and this alternative. So it is. I always like to say AEW has a little bit of something for everybody. So if you like technical wrestling, if you like hardcore wrestling, if you like lucha, if you like, Japanese pro suit, it's a mixture of everything. And this show is the best example of that.
And the cool thing is too, like AEW, of course, isn't the first promotion to do interpromotional stuff. It's been done for a long time, but it's the first time on this level in the U.S. in quite a long while. So there's so many talents that could cross over with each other. That obviously there's three shows worth of it over 3 years to do it, but
Yeah.
it's really unique for the fans to be able to see some of the matchups like this one, that we're going to see. Is there anybody else in a Forbidden Door kind of setting who you haven't faced yet, regardless of promotion? Who which you think would be a cool match with Orange Cassidy?
I always, whenever I get these questions like, who do you want to wrestle? It's like, I don't really want to wrestle anybody, but
Right.
I'd rather not get beat up. I've always really enjoyed Naito. Obviously, he's going to mix it up with John Moxley, and but I think that would be an interesting one. And you know, I, I, I hate to say anybody's name because last time I did this, I ended up wrestling him. Like I'm going to wrestle him this at this pay-per-view. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
I was going to throw in like I'll give you mine later on because I'll have the three count at the end of the show. I'll throw you one that I was thinking about of what would this look like. But how do you feel about being on your own now? Best Friends seems to be the past history now with the way it's gone with Trip Beretta and Statlander, with Chuck Taylor out of action. I hadn't really thought much about your Chaos membership until thinking about the Forbidden Door show, but Wikipedia does list you with an active membership in Chaos still. How do you establish yourself and continue to establish yourself on your own without all the side kind of hubbub?
Well, it is. This is the first time for me in AEW. I'm kind of roaming around alone. Um, it's not a happy time for me. All of my friends have left me, and they're trying to either beat me up or humiliate me. Um, and, and for years, even when I had those, like I had people coming up that wanted to team with me. I had many friends, and now all of a sudden it's like they're all just gone. and it's new for me. And the only thing that I know I can do, the only thing I think I can do, is just keep on doing what I'm doing, and that's just wrestling and trying to be the best.
So I got to ask, how last time you had the green screen behind you, and today we're in wherever the scenic area you are today. How counter is it for you to do media and promote all your stuff and do all the stuff on social media and that kind of stuff with what you're portraying and just with who you are?
Yeah, I know I have to do it, so I do it, and I do the bare minimum, like I always do, and everything else. It is, it's. I try to approach it the same way I approach everything in my professional wrestling, which is just try to be different and try to be unique and something that no one's ever seen before.
Very good. As a fan, what was your first introduction to Japanese pro wrestling?
Probably Best of Super Juniors. Can't remember which year it was, but it had all the. It was, I remember watching that and being like, oh wow, this is a whole tournament based on the style of wrestling that I like, and seeing what they were doing in there was something that I really admired, and it is a goal of mine to be in the Best of the Super Juniors. If AEW will let me go for that long to do that, but that's something I've always wanted to do.
And that tournament always had a lot of different style, even though it was, of course, junior heavyweight style wrestlers in New Japan. There was always a good variety of different type of guys in there too, and also the relationship they've had with CMLL over the years kind of
Right.
expands that too.
I even think nowadays it's even more diverse in wrestling styles than it was even back then. So it's yeah, it's something I would love to be a part of.
Do you remember who any of the people were? Because I remember watching one of those in the '90s. I want to say Taka Michinoku was on the one I was watching. I want to say Owen
Yeah,
Hart might have been.
yeah. So that's the one that's the years I'm talking. Like those '90s, like they were all of those guys were just something I'd never seen before, and it was incredible to watch.
Yeah, I think Liger might have been the only one I was like slightly familiar with from watching
Right,
a couple of the WCW shots that he did, like Battle Pole
right.
teaming with like Bill
Yeah.
Kazmaier and stuff, but not a whole lot when you see them in their element too. So,
Yes.
whole new world. Now, you have wrestled in Japan, not as Orange Cassidy though.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Do you think Japan would understand Orange Cassidy maybe a little bit better than Americans? Pick up on the subtlety and maybe the nonverbal cues a little bit better?
You know, I would love to find out. I would love to see if they did or not. I mean, I seem to get good reactions from the Japanese wrestlers that come over. So if that's any indication, I guess that'd be okay. But hey, how about this? Let's find out.
Yeah, because I feel like they're going to pick up on they're a little bit different of a crowd, a little bit different with reactions themselves. So they're looking for you're all about nuance and finding things, different things that you do a little bit differently than everybody else. So, anybody in particular of the visiting Japanese wrestlers who have come in, it seems like you're sort of a regular request here for some of these guys.
Yeah, it is a very strange world we live in. For me personally, when Katsuyori Shibata, one of the great fresh wrestlers of all time, requested he either wanted to wrestle me or Brian Danielson. That is insane to me. Zack Sabre was coming for me, and it's like these are the best technical wrestlers in the world, and it's a little daunting because it's like I mean I've been tricking people for a long time. I don't know how much longer I could trick them.
But like you said before, like you don't always like to answer the question of who you want to wrestle because you don't really want to get beat up. But at the same time, it's like you have this body of work now that people have looked at and respected for so long. So whether you want to or not, you're going to be you're somebody that's you could put Orange Cassidy in the ring with anybody, and it's going to be unique and it's going to be different, in my opinion.
I would argue respected for a long time. I don't know if that's always been the case. It was rough going early because people just didn't know. But
Yeah.
I show you what I have to show you when I have to show you. I try to keep everything I can do. I don't. If I show you everything, then I got nothing left. So um, I slowly but surely, you'll see more.
I think at least over the last few years with AEW, I think as people have caught on to, you know, that it wasn't just sort of a gimmick, it wasn't just sort of a novelty. It's actually like a talented professional wrestler who can have all sorts of different matches. So,
Well, I better because I think I have the most matches in AEW. Like I think I wrestle every week. It feels like
yeah.
I'm the laziest guy around, and I'm out there wrestling more than anybody else.
I was wondering too. Since we're talking about Forbidden Door, were you a tape trader? And is this the easiest time ever to be a wrestling fan with the amount of stuff that's just available, how small the world is, or is it the hardest because there's just so much stuff and not enough time?
I get very envious that I could just go on my computer, laptop, or my phone and just type in a match that I think of in my brain, and I could probably find a link to it. Uh, I remember when I used to have to like wait for tapes to come out, like VHS tapes to come out, and like Suncoast Video, and to run over and buy them. And my friends would have copies they got from a local pro wrestling shop that were like taped from DVDs or taped from other tapes, and it was like the idea that you have everything at the tip of your fingers now is I mean, that's also why wrestling's evolving at the rate it is because everything's being seen. Any match you do will be recorded and someone's going to see it. And I think the pressure to innovate and stay unique is much harder than ever.
Did you have do you have a go-to tape you can think of that you watched a lot of in the tape trading days, or stuff that you were specifically seeking out more than others?
I mean, I had a lot. I think I had like the best of AJ Styles from Japan. I don't know when that was, but I had that. And I did have I used to go to the Suncoast for sure to get the ECW pay-per-views. And I remember ECW Heatwave 98 was probably one of my favorites.
Nice. We're going to move on to something we call the three count now. It's going to be three quick questions and your answers. So this was the guy I was thinking of before in terms of what would a match with this guy look like? What would it be like if Orange Cassidy stepped into the ring and wrestled Toriano?
Oh, that would be there would be so many bits going on. I don't know. It's gonna be who's gonna outbit the other guy. Yeah, that would be that's the one that I get a lot of people saying they would love to see me with. I would love to. He's great.
Yeah, and he's a good technical wrestler too. Like he can actually,
Absolutely.
I think people lose that in his work sometimes too, is that the guy can actually wrestle. Um, Second question: if Orange Cassidy wasn't watching AEW wrestling, what wrestling would he be watching from around the world?
Probably New Japan, I would say.
Yeah,
It's got to be New Japan. And I'd probably also watch like independent wrestling because I always enjoy that. I still watch it all the time.
is that kind of a good place too to also, like you said, like you're taping everything, you see everything nowadays. It's a good place to find what, sort of the cutting edge of what's next.
Absolutely. And independent wrestling has always been that. So I always try to stay on top of that.
And then last question: you recently had a match with Isaiah Cassidy. If you had to pick a favorite Cassidy other than yourself and Isaiah, who would it be and why?
Um, Probably Katie Cassidy. She's an actress. And I liked her in the movie. I think she was in that movie Taken with Liam Neeson. So she's not the girl. She's not his daughter. I think she's the friend that they go to Europe. So is that a good answer?
There's no rules, and there's
All
we can
right.
do whatever we need to. So, Orange Cassidy, once again, thank you so much. June 30th, AEW New Japan Forbidden Door, UBS Arena on Long Island. I'll be there, and you'll be facing Zack Sabre Jr. All the best to you with that match, and thank you so much for doing this today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to need it. I appreciate it.
All right.